Hi there, and thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to be doing an analysis and valuation of Otis worldwide. But before I do, if you are enjoying this kind of content where we dive deep into the analysis, the valuation, and the story of different businesses, then don't forget to give me like and subscribe. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm and tells me to keep doing these kinds of videos. If you have any requests of any companies you would want me to analyze, feel free to comment down below. I do viewer requests here and there. So without further ado, let's get started. So Otis Worldwide is basically a company that creates elevators, escalators, moving walkways, etc., and they're based in the US. Their competitors are European companies, and it's a somewhat of a recent spin-off in 2020, at least in terms of where the markets are, but they've been operating for a long, long time. And if we look at their financials over the last couple of years, you see a somewhat steady, if uninspiring, revenue grower. The elevator market won't necessarily grow at high double digits per year, but it is growing nonetheless. And in terms of EBITDA, you see margins that are somewhat improving and CapEx that is also growing but somewhat steady. You would expect some CapEx to be present with something like an elevator company because actually mounting elevators or renovating them, etc., does create capital expenditures. In terms of their margins, we have things like their gross margin being 30%, operating margin and net margin being 15 and 10% roughly. So interesting stuff. But what I wanted to look at is also the assets and the liabilities. So I do see a somewhat big debt position of 8.75 billion US dollars, as a much lower cash position, and the assets actually are about, or rather, the debt is about 75% of the assets. So the liabilities are more than the assets. That's not the greatest thing ever, but it also kind of depends on their ability to cover that debt or re-roll it favorably. In terms of free cash flow, however, they're positive, and we love to see that. So, in terms of the balance sheet, as we were talking about, their total assets 10 billion, their total liabilities 15 billion, and 10 billion of which 1.7 billion is goodwill. So actually, that's a little less even. So even current assets are less than current liabilities. So yeah, they may have to issue debt or issue more stock in order to cover the short-term debt that is due. So very important to pay attention to because we want a company that is not only growing but that is healthy and doesn't need to necessarily do something extreme to cover what they need to pay in the short term, you know. Now, if we are looking a little bit at the current panorama, it seems like they've grown a little bit. So a little bit of organic sales growth, a little bit of backlog growth, and positive free cash flow. That's great. At the same time, they're also they're repurchasing shares, so doing share buybacks, which is wonderful, and doing acquisitions to keep growing as well. And we maintain, so basically more elevator maintenance stuff. If you see, actually, most of their sales growth comes from reparation and modernization rather than actual elevator installation. That makes sense. Not as many elevators are being installed as elevators that need to be modernized or maintained. Now, if you look at this, I think this is very, very interesting because new equipment is 1% of their growth, but if you exclude China, it's 6%. You know, modernization is 11%. If you exclude China, 6% as well. Um, So it's interesting because basically their backlog is actually greater excluding China. What this is showing and why I'm showing this is basically because China is slowing down in construction. They had a very big construction bubble burst. The Chinese investor is not very confident in new construction investments and new real estate and commercial investments. So this does affect them. And one of their levers of revenue is how much construction, how much infrastructure investment is being made. And oftentimes that is also supported by world governments giving either tax cuts or cash injections for infrastructure development. If that slows down, they are not going to be in a good position to have more orders and have a bigger backlog. Now, let's make a model here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at Yahoo Finance, the analysis tab, and there's revenue estimates over there. So about 15 billion and $15.4 billion for the next 2 years. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say roughly 10% of that is going to be their free cash flow, which is about in line with what they do historically. Now, I'm going to project that out with a growth from 2028 onwards of about 3%. And then we're going to discount it back at a required rate of return of 11%. That's 1% more per year than the market gives back on average. On average has been at 10%. If we divide that by the total number of shares out, and we would get a fair value of equity of $50.39 per share. However, if we subtract the net debt, of which we were talking before, they have quite a bit, then you would get $31.15 per share with this 11% required rate of return and 3% perpetual growth rate. Now let's compare it to where the company is currently at. And wow, I mean, we're quite far off here in my estimation. And it's for multiple reasons. But first, we'll see that they actually went down from historical highs. They were at about $101 before. Now they're $70, so down 30%. The P ratio is 18, so I mean lower than the average market, but not that low. They give a little bit of a dividend, and with share buybacks, there is something that the investor receives. But even though there's a huge dip, at least according to this, it doesn't seem to be super, super undervalued. And just to compare it here to their industry or other industrial stocks or infrastructure related stocks, I mean, the industry median is 12.7 times EV to EBITDA, and Otis is currently at 13.5 times or 13.2 times if you're thinking in forward numbers. So it's about in line. It doesn't look undervalued related to another valuation method that we're just using to cross check the sanity of our discounted cash flow model. In general, Otis Global is very interesting, but we also have to think about what it's dependent on, which is infrastructure investment and construction output. And although many of the revenues are maintenance and modernization, this is more sticky, um, which is important. It's important to put those elevators, modernize them, keep them there. There's so many buildings from, the 20th century that will still have the same elevators, really, and that's very sticky. So they will still grow. They will still be around no matter what. But will they grow at what the valuation implies? Perhaps not. And because of the merger of Cone and TKE, Otis is left with much less of the market share than its competitors. I think it was about 18% pre-merger. And now this merger is going to create one massive elevator and escalator company based in Europe. And it is also looking more unlikely to be blocked as a merger because of geopolitics. So, yeah, my analysis may be too conservative here. People will buy new elevators and will need to maintain them. I still cannot call Otis undervalued. I think it's maybe a good company that'll be around for a while, but would I say it's a screaming deal? Not necessarily because of the things that we have discussed. So I always want you to ask yourself which forces actually drive sales, and that'll help you understand what the growth prospects will look like and what the threats are to those growth prospects. Now, with that said, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And once again, if you like these kinds of videos, please let me know by liking and subscribing. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.